Good afternoon, everyone. So I'm Deputy Chief Devin LaForce in charge of our Investigations and Support Services Bureau, and with me is Superintendent Shane Perka in charge of our Criminal Investigations Division. Thank you for joining us today. The past week has been unbelievably painful for the Ryan and Jordan families, our police service, and all of our members. As we mourn the profound loss of Constables Brett Ryan and Travis Jordan, the EPS continues to support their families through this tragedy, and we hold them in our hearts. The outpouring of support for the family is so appreciated, and we ask that you kindly continue to respect their space as they navigate this painful time. We've also received many inquiries about the wellness of the officers' colleagues and our service as a whole. One of the most difficult things an officer may experience during their career is the death of a colleague. And as expected, we are all hurting. I can confirm that our Employee and Family Assistance section has been actively engaged in supporting staff. Likewise, our Crime and Trauma-Informed Support Services and our Community Relations section continues to support the impacted communities. It will be a long road to healing, and we are grateful for the concern. We gathered you here today to provide an update on the investigation. There are still many outstanding questions about what took place last Thursday. The investigation is still ongoing, but we do have further information to share with you. Yesterday, the medical examiner conducted an autopsy and confirmed that the 16-year-old male shooter's death was a single gunshot wound to the head, consistent with being self-inflicted. There were no other shots fired by anyone else during this event. A bullet casing recovered from the scene of a March 12, 2023 shooting at a nearby restaurant have also been forensically matched to the firearm that was recovered at the apartment, where Constable Brett Ryan and Constable Travis Jordan were fatally shot. The same gun was used for both events, and at this time we don't have information that links the firearm to any other crimes. Investigators also believe the suspect in the March 12th shooting to be the same male responsible for the deaths of the two EPS members on March 16th. This is based on the analysis of further evidence, and there is still some work that is ongoing before we can comment further. Detectives are also tracing the origins of the firearm and how it came to be in the youth's possession. At this time, investigators continue to believe that the shooter's parents, police dispatch, and Constables Ryan and Jordan had no information to suggest there was a firearm in the home when the family dispute call for service was made last Thursday. Both events have been served by robust investigations that have followed all lines of inquiries. All tips and other investigative avenues were pursued exhaustively by the investigative teams. The man who was shot on March 12th in the restaurant remains in hospital in critical but stable condition. And the youth's mother, who was shot on March 16th, remains in hospital in serious but stable condition. There's also an issue we would like to address, and it is around the naming of the 16-year-old shooter. We recognize there are active media inquiries and a strong need for the public to learn about and try and understand the murders of two police officers. We all want to answer the question of how did this happen? We will not be speaking to this today, but here is why. At this time, our priorities remain the integrity of ongoing investigations, which includes the origin of the firearm and where others could face criminal jeopardy. It also includes the safety and privacy of all the families affected by this tragedy. All the families have been cooperative with police investigators, and we are working with them, and this is a difficult time for everyone. We appreciate media who have given space to both the investigations and the families. We ask that you continue to do so. Once again, we would like to extend our thanks to everyone, locally, nationally, and internationally, for reaching out to offer assistance or express your condolences. We are incredibly grateful for your support during this difficult time, and it does not go unnoticed. We continue to work closely with the Ryan and Jordan families to plan Monday's funeral, and will provide more specific details on the arrangements before week's end. Thank you, and we'll now take your questions.
My name is Ritika Dubey with the Canadian Press. Do we know more about the motivation?
We don't. That's definitely something that we definitely want to get into. And as we kind of continue to work with the families and into the backgrounds, I can tell you there's other exhibit items such as our shooter's phone and a computer that we're actively searching and trying to get into. And as we learn more about that, we'll have some answers, we hope.
Follow-up question. Was the boy on any kind of medication?
Not that I'm aware of. I don't know.
Medical information, we aren't fully aware of the full extent of any medical information or any prescriptions or any sort of interventions that way that we're able to speak about at this time. But these are certainly answers to questions that we're going to be actively looking for.
Illegal substances?
I can't comment on that either.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Audrey Neveu with French CBC. Can you state a little bit more clearly why not releasing the name of the shooter would compromise the rest of the investigation?
Yeah,
because I'm not sure I fully understand.
Sure. So obviously the firearm and how the youth got that firearm is very of paramount importance. Like, how did a 16-year-old obtain this gun? Working backwards, whoever he got that gun from probably faces some criminal jeopardy, and we're working backwards to try and figure out what that looks like. So there's other investigations that could become compromised.
And can you give us a little bit more detail about the other investigation? You say a restaurant. We know that there was a shooting in a Pizza Hut just down the street. Can you confirm this is the location?
That is the location.
Arthur Green, Western Standard. Last week I inquired with you what type of gun was used in this crime. We've all seen the pictures from Pizza Hut, and it looks like it was a handgun that was used. Can you confirm if it was a handgun or a long gun that was used?
Not ready to confirm any details at all on the firearm.
Also, just as a follow-up, do police believe this is a gang-related shooting?
There's nothing to indicate that there's any gang involvement from our shooter at this point.
Thank you.
Kieran Levitt, Toronto Star. I'm wondering, are police feeling confident about the thoroughness of the first investigation that was done into the Pizza Hut shooting? Or is there any planned review of how that investigation took place in those early days there?
Yeah, for sure. We're at this point in time, we're very confident. Very early on, obviously, we were aware of crimes that happened right in that short area, like the vicinity geographically, and of course, proximity of time to the murder of our constables. As far as the details of that investigation, our homicide detectives linked up very quickly to the investigations of that non-fatal shooting, and they're confident that they did everything they could with what they had at the time.
Why wasn't there a news release until about 2 days after that shooting about the incident, even though police believed that the shooter was still at large?
I think it had to do with the video already being made public almost before the investigation was starting, and so that information was out there. As far as the details of that media release, I can't really comment, as it wasn't our area.
Hi, it's Jeremy Thompson with CTV Edmonton. As I'm sure you're aware, you mentioned that this shooter's name is being publicized in other publications. Toronto Star is running an article. Wondering, is there anything in that reporting that you think is inaccurate?
As was mentioned, we're not going to comment any further on any sort of other media releases or information that has been shared with the public. And it was reiterated, and I'll reiterate it one last time. We believe it's in the public's interest to conduct and conclude these investigations in the most diligent and effective manner possible. This includes releasing information in a timely but appropriate manner. The premature release of information complicates our efforts. We also speak in the interests of multiple families whose lives have been irreparably altered by these events, and urge the media, as do we, to consider their privacy and best interests as they grieve.
In the media release that was sent out just a little bit ago, it mentioned that the mother in this incident is still in hospital in pretty serious condition. Are you able to say any more than that? Does she know what has happened? Does she know, is she on life support or anything like that?
Yeah, she is stable. She can't talk, and so it's so right now the communication has been just by written communication. Obviously, we want to continue to interview her, and that's going to happen when she's released. She's expected to recover.
Johnny Wakefield, Edmonton Journal. I just wanted to double check. Are you saying that you're never going to name the shooter, or just at this moment you're not doing so?
At this moment we have, again, it's been a week since this event, of course you can appreciate, and we just have lots of different investigative avenues that we need to make some more progress on before that happens. And we have some information that this youth may have been subject to some sort of apprehension order under the Mental Health Act prior to this shooting, within weeks, Form 10. Do you know anything about that? Was he...
Because you had mentioned a mental health call before.
So it was mentioned last time we spoke that police had responded to that address for a mental health type complaint. That was back in November of last year. And information from that call, we were unable to provide a lot last time, but we can now share that this youth was apprehended under the Mental Health Act by our officers. And that was after consultation with our PACT, or police and crisis teams. The youth was then transported to the hospital for assessment. I can't speak any further as to the outcome of that assessment, or that would be more on the medical side of things, and we don't have access to that information at this point, but it's certainly things that in the coming days and weeks we will be following up on.
Is that something that would have been communicated to the officers, that there had been a mental health call at this particular location that involved an apprehension?
The officers would have had access to query the address. Again, we're not 100% sure, as we know what information was available to them as they approached the address, but we're unable to confirm any conversation or the details of any conversation they had with the mother. But we do know that they did meet with the mother prior to attending the suite together.
And do you know if, sorry, just one more related follow-up. Do you know if, I mean, I don't know how it works with dispatch. Are they told, for example, by the way, a few days ago there was a shooting nearby? Like, is that contained in the information that officers receive, or is that just, like, if you get into that, you're going to be giving them the whole kitchen sink?
That's a difficult question to answer. A lot of it depends on, the type of call and the type of information that's been made available during the call.
Hi, and just for clarity purposes, is there any legal reason that you can't name this youth at this time?
No.
And are you able to give us any more information about the number of shots that were fired in total and how many struck each of the officers, the mother, and then it was just the one shot at the...
Yeah, at this time, just multiple shots to our officers, multiple shots to mom, one shot to our shooter.
Hi again, Audrey Navarro, French CBC. Can you tell us if anything unusual came up with the autopsy of the teenager?
Well, I mean, obviously just self-inflicted gunshot wound. So, but other than that, no.
Okay, so there was no trace of drugs or alcohol in his body at the time of death?
Toxicology, unfortunately, takes longer. And so in the coming months, unfortunately, it'll take that length of time to get those results.
Okay, thank you.
Ritika Dubey with the Canadian Press. There are rumors that the boy shot through the door. Can you please give us more clarity about what happened there?
Yeah, at this point in time, we don't believe that happened. So
that's it.
Arthur Green from the Western Standard. Just back to the gun. The gun was obviously recovered at the scene. Was this weapon modified at all, and does it have a serial number?
I appreciate your effort to ask, but again, I'm not going to comment on the gun. Yeah.
Adam Zaccarelli, City News. You said the weapon was in relation to the shooting on March the 12th. Was the call the officers were attending to in relation to that previous incident, the family dispute? Was that in relation to the previous incident?
Yeah, good question. Nothing links those two events.
One last question. Were the officers already investigating, and did they look into the building before the shooting happened? So sorry, let me rephrase this. Were they investigating the Pizza Hut shooting, and did they already go through the building when this happened?
Yeah, they were aware that the shooter from the shooting event on March 12th did cross kind of east across Crow Road, but that complex, there's literally 700 residences, and there's lots of buildings that are right there, so nothing actually was tracked to that building at all, and they were doing extensive searches to see if the shooter from that original shooting came from that area.